us, it is the Honorable Parmeet Sarkaria, the Minister of Transportation for the province of Ontario. So it'll be great to have him here as well. At this point, I would like to invite, as I said, she is the visionary behind this initiative, has done a great job in the industry that she is, which is absolutely fabulous, the Trucking Network. If you could please welcome, probably with thunderous applause, and a nice warm welcome because it's freezing outside, please welcome Naveen Nav.
Thank you, Jake, and thank you everyone for being here, especially supporting our first annual Fleet Executive Summit. We cannot make this event without you guys, and it took lots of thoughts and courage to make this decision that we will start our Fleet Executive Summit every year. If this event goes well with your support, and which I'm 200% which will go, with you are showing your your presence is giving me assurance that it will go successful. And thank you again. Thank you for being here. We have a packed agenda. I won't take too much time. Everybody knows me so far, whoever is in the hall. So we will have a jam-packed agenda. Different experts from the industry will be sharing their knowledge and how we can, in this challenging time, how we can grow business, how we can succeed, how we can get over the challenges we are facing, the industry is facing today. And end of the day, we will have few political people with us to give us assurance that they are making steps, they are making their efforts to put the industry back what we want to see. And end of the day, around 6:30, we will have a nice, delicious dinner. And please stay with us till that time. Thank you. Thank you, Jay.
Thank you very much. Very passionate person. I mean, that smile says it all, right? Very dedicated. And when she came in, she's running around doing stuff. She goes, I just want to see everybody happy. And that's Naveen. So very kind. I want to invite Herman to come up as well. Herman John, I've known Herman, I think, for a very, very long time. In my role at Rogers, Herman used to be on Rogers TV, providing his expertise. So he's been a staple in the industry. Herman, would you please come up and bring greetings as well? Herman's a little taller.
Jake, thank you so much. Thanks for the lovely words. And yes, I have been tall for quite a while. Again, first of all, thank you so much to everybody for coming in, supporting us. And of course, nothing would have been possible without NAV. I know NAV for, I think, almost 15 years. We made our entrance pretty much at the same time in the trucking industry at that time. So I still remember the day when NAV came in. I used to work at Upper Canada Truck Sales at that time. You came and you said, hey, Harman, this is what we're doing. That's what it is. And her passion from that day one to right now, I think it has only exceeded, if not more. So again, a big round of applause for NAV for making this happen. And now I think we made the right call by not booking all the golf course, because I think it's snowing outside. Yes, exactly. Because when, again, thanks of course to the Kenneth as well for giving us this beautiful room to organize this. And we were debating this, that hey, you know what? Maybe it could be a nice sunny day that we can have a couple of rounds or maybe a couple of drives. So I think that we made the right call by not doing that. So again, thank you so much to everybody for joining us at the conference. And again, we're looking forward to a very successful and a very exuberant conference today. Thanks again. I'll let Jake take over. Thanks, Jake.
Thank you, Herman. Thank you. Thanks very much, Herman. So we're going to get started, friends. The first speaker is, when you talk about protecting the organization, are you still doing the same old road test? So the conversation will be around protecting the organization, due diligence, hiring the right people, driver retention, the value of using third-party providers. And to do that, we have Chris Wilkinson. He's the Sales and Marketing Manager at Empirica. He has over a decade of experience working with trucking companies, supporting fitness for duty programs, and as well as HR practices, including program and policy development and performance management scenarios. Please welcome Chris Wilkinson.
All right, thank you for having me. My name is Chris Wilkinson, and I am, as you heard, the Sales and Marketing Manager at Empirica, and we work with trucking companies and driving schools to help provide a standardized approach to managing risk when it comes to road testing. That's my sales pitch. Now I'm going to get into some of the presentation, which is a little bit more on the education side. All right, so the title of this presentation is called Protecting the Organization. And if you want to just go to the next slide. Oh, I get the clicker. No, okay, next slide. Yeah. All right, so what we're going to look at here is when you talk about protecting the organization, this is such a broad topic, and I'm going to narrow it down to specifically looking at driver risk and how you're measuring that risk. But when you look at trying to protect an organization, there are so many great companies, and I'm going to pinpoint one that I work with myself, Summit Risk Solutions, who are there to help you and guide you through the challenging times when you are trying to manage risk in such a challenging environment. But when I'm looking at this presentation, I said, okay, well, I'm going to talk about protecting the organization, but let's start with the road test. So we'll go to the first slide. So the same old road test. And I asked the question, and this is something I've been promoting now for just about 2 years, are you still doing the same old road test? And when organizations are looking at road testing practices and putting somebody behind a vehicle, in a truck, to evaluate their performance, are you just doing it because the industry expects it? Are you just doing it because insurance recommends it being done? In the US, you don't even have to do a road test with applicants unless they're driving hazardous material. A commercial driver's license is enough in the US to say, nope, we can hire this person and move forward. So in Canada, they've developed this practice to say, well, we want you behind a truck to evaluate your performance. But are you just doing it to check off a box? And if you're doing it just to check off a box, you're missing a huge opportunity. If you want to go to the next slide. You're missing a huge opportunity to actually evaluate somebody's performance, not just on hire, but throughout the lifespan of their employment with you, to help lengthen the employment with you as well. Because if you can identify performance issues or any concerns that there are and manage and mitigate that risk early on, early intervention, there's a better opportunity to actually retain those drivers. But as you're looking to protect your organization and you say, well, we're just checking a box. If there is a nuclear verdict or something against your organization and you have to go back to defend what you've done and the decisions you've made and how you got to the process to say, well, we hired this person because, you're going to have to start with that road test in your recruiting process. Where was the decision made? How is it made? And what steps did you have in place to be able to say, well, we confidently made this decision and we did everything we could to make sure that this was the right person. And then maybe circumstances happen, but at least you've protected your organization on the hiring side. As you can see too, there's probationary period testing. Again, people just check off that box. I'm just going to do pre-employment. I'm done. Move on. Put them in a truck. Let's start making money. But there are these opportunities like probationary period, performance review, periodic assessments. Return to work is so challenging. You have someone coming back from medical leave and you say, what do we do with this individual? A road test is the bona fide occupational requirement of the job to drive a vehicle safe. They can't come back and say, well, you can't make me do a road test on a return to work. I have a doctor's note. You say, well, I absolutely can make you do a road test. This is part of the job. I want to make sure that you can do it competently and capable. All right, next one. When we look at the old road testing practices too, and I've done a lot of reviews with trucking companies over the last 3-4 years now on this program, and the answer to all this is yes. Are you still using pen and paper? Yes. Is the driver evaluator filling out that piece of paper after the road test? Most companies, yes. Are they doing vehicle inspections during the road testing process? The answer there, unfortunately, is no. Companies are skipping these important steps, and there's been so many out-of-service vehicles. I've seen news articles pop up about it as well. There's these opportunities that are being missed. Now, when you go back to pen and paper and completing the form after a road test is completed, there's so much information that you're missing. If somebody performs an error right at the very beginning of a road test, And the evaluator goes, yeah, I noticed it, I'm going to document that later. They do an hour road test, they do a post-trip maybe with them, they do an exit interview, maybe they go for a sandwich, maybe they go to the bathroom, and then they go to their office to start filling out that report. How much information have they actually lost? And with working with a number of trucking companies, the answer comes back is, all of our forms look exactly the same. Because the evaluators are sitting there going, okay, what do I need to put down here? And they're just going again through the motions. So this is the same old road test that if there is a future claim against your organization and you need to be able to defend yourself and the organization, that information is not going to be helpful to you. And you're not going to be able to say, well, we did our due diligence. Can you go to the next one? There's also bias and unconscious bias that comes in with evaluators. Now, the bottom definition is what I'm going to point out here, but this is a whole list of unconscious biases that affect all of us. But in the trucking industry, and what I've realized very strongly with evaluators and trainers, is that they're affected by something called the idiosyncratic rater bias. And what this means is that they evaluate performance of others the way that they believe success would look like. And I've seen this a lot, where an evaluator will say, we say, okay, well, there wasn't any errors on that road test. How come? And the response back was, well, I would have done the same thing. I would drive a truck the same way. So they're now basing their level of this is what a good driver is, but the next person is here, the next person's here, and there's no consistency. So having a standardization and something in place where you scientifically score and validate those errors to help evaluators not have to only use subjectivity to be able to determine risk should put your organization again in a much stronger position to say, yes, we did our due diligence, we protected the organization, we did what we could. Okay, so I've said due diligence a lot. So I think most people might know what due diligence is, but I did put a definition up in the presentation. But it requires taking all reasonable steps to protect workers and the public from harm. All reasonable steps. If you as an organization say, well, our hiring practice is just checking off boxes, then you are not taking all reasonable steps. There's also the all reasonable steps definition, which is based on the level of judgment and care that a person would reasonably be expected to do under the circumstances. Organizations have compliance. Most companies stick with compliance, and they say compliance are all the reasonable steps that we need to follow. My recommendation is to go beyond compliance. Do more to be able to say, yes, we went beyond. We can defend ourselves because we said we did. Here's our evidence, here's our measurables, and here's how we manage our risk after the fact as well. All right. So why are strong road testing practices important, especially when you talk about due diligence, but it really does help protect against future claims. This is what you want to do. You're building up. I've heard in some insurance companies say bulletproofing the front door or shoring up the front door, all these different terms that are being used, but it's about protecting the front door, because once an individual is in the organization, they're in the organization until something happens. And that's what you're going to deal with if you don't put in the proper steps and protocols to be able to evaluate and identify risk before it manifests. You can also, go back. Yeah. It's a great way to assess a driver's ability to identify some of the performance gaps, but only if the evaluators are doing their responsible job by marking the errors as they see them, appropriately documenting to report back to an organization, great driver, but here's their areas of weakness that should be focused on. By doing that, it helps to reduce attrition within an organization, and we'll kind of get to hiring the right people as well. But reducing attrition by hiring the right people to start with and supporting them and training them to make sure that they are equipped with the knowledge and abilities they need, which then should turn into improved performance as well. Going back to road testing helps improve all these areas within an organization. So stop just checking a box. Okay, next one. Hiring the right people. All right, so with hiring the right people, you go next slide. When you're looking at hiring the right people, look at a multifaceted approach to determining if they are the right people. Make sure that you have multiple ways to be able to evaluate somebody, because they may seem like the right person because I heard a story not long ago is this driver was coming back to an organization. They knew everybody in the organization, so that was the reason they said they were the right fit. They had been gone for 5 years. When they came back and they went through some medical assessments, it was identified that they unfortunately have a significant medical condition and they should not be driving. But they had already hired the person because the company said, they're the right fit. They worked here before. They know everybody. They know our processes. They hired them incidents occurred, and then they found out they have a medical issue that led to this. So you really want to look at multiple ways to be able to identify that risk. And if you can't measure it, you can't manage it. If you can't measure what you're using to evaluate drivers and their performance, then you cannot manage what you're trying to measure or what you're trying to identify. Don't make hiring decisions based on operational needs. We see and hear that a lot when we work with companies on fitness for duty assessments, where they say, well, we need a driver in a truck. We have a driver at the door. That driver's going on the road. And you say, okay, great, but that is a decision based on operations, not with risk in mind. And you're completely ignoring that side of it. And use the probationary period. A lot of companies seem to be, I've talked to a number of companies in trucking, and they say, well, no, once they're in a truck, and they're off on the road. But you have this opportunity to make sure they still are the right fit during a probationary period, to make sure you have the right people, or you can identify that we need to train them more, to make sure they are successful, to make sure they stay with our organization a long time, instead of just getting them on the road and saying, okay, roll the dice. Okay, next one. All right, so now we're going to talk about driver retention. And I think there's a piece in here. Yeah, retention is the new recruiting. I think I stole this from Dirk Kupar. Hey, Dirk. I was on your website. I was like, what can I steal from Dirk on the TruckRight website here? And I was like, this is good. I'm going to take it. But retention is the new recruiting. You want to make sure that you're investing in the talent that you have. So now you've got the right person in the door. Doesn't mean they're going to be great and the right person forever without support. You still have to support them. You still want to focus on them. You still want to give them care, and you want to make sure that you train them appropriately, that these bad habits aren't creeping up. So reevaluations, periodic assessments, figuring out these touch points with these drivers so that you are able to identify, hey, there might be a risk here that we can help manage and mitigate before it manifests into something bigger. There also is create a culture of learning. Again, I stole it from Dirk's website. So with the culture of learning, you want to make sure that when you identify that there are challenges and an opportunity to train, that you actually train, that you support your drivers in a way that fits their lifestyle as well, to be able to help them continue to make money, but then also to be able to continue to learn and improve as they go on. Yes? Can you give us a tangible example of the support program? Go back for a second. Yeah. So support programs, so those are like EAP, employee assistance programs in particular, but there are and benefits programs to make sure that people are getting the care that they need. If you think about somebody who has a nagging injury and they don't have a system to be able to help them with that injury or illness that they're dealing with, then that's just going to potentially manifest and get worse for them, which means now you've got a driver out of service instead of having someone who could have got ahead of that injury or illness and have earlier intervention. So those would be the support programs that I would recommend. You could also have in place counseling programs, especially if there are somebody going through some kind of mental stress, to be able to support them through that process so that they don't feel like they're alone. They actually are supported through the organization. Okay. Okay. And then I want to point out, like, with what I've been doing with standardized road courses and developing standardization and practices across Canada, the value of this really is through third-party providers. And working with organizations like TTSAO have really set our company up, and I think the industry up, for success when it comes to saying, we're going to protect the organization, and here's how. I just want to go to the next slide. So with the protecting the organization and using third-party providers to do road tests, what you're doing is you're saying, we are an arm's reach away from this decision. Operations are not affecting this decision. We're using third-party providers who we have confidence in because of the standards and practices that they have to help us identify risk and then provide us with that information so that we can then make an informed decision on hiring somebody, not based again on, well, they worked for the company 5 years ago, let's hire them back. It's, nope, we're going to put them through this process, treat everybody equally and fairly, have somebody who is unbiased, be able to do the evaluation, and then provide that critical information that a company does need to be able to make that decision so that they can better manage risk. Working with the TTSAO group, which we're very proud of this relationship, we're also now working with professional organizations to help support our program, which is called Accelerate, to be able to help organizations access it a lot easier. So now you can call up a TTSAO school like Alpine or Ontario Truck Driving School and be able to say, hey, we would like to get an Accelerate or road test done through you. How does it work? And then they can get you set up. I already mentioned the unbiased evaluators, having qualified trained evaluators do these assessments as well. Working with trucking companies, and I'll say, who does your road test now? There is a long list of individuals that could do it, from veteran drivers, terminal managers, safety. I've heard recruiting go out on the road before. Like anybody that has a commercial driver's license essentially could go out and do one of these road tests, do a road test for an organization, but the quality and standards are all over the place. And the knowledge and abilities and their idea of what is success, the idiosyncratic rater bias. So when you work with schools to be able to do these road tests, I think it really does set that standard of qualified evaluators for you. And when you look at defending the organization, stronger defensibility when you can say, we hired a professional organization to do our road test. They follow these standards. We made our decision based on the information provided. We identified risk. We managed and mitigated it through training programs. We have support programs in place. We have all the things that we need. If something still occurs, at least you have a much better foot to go forward with on that one. And then it could reduce the company's time they spend. If I'm asking you to put in training programs and reevaluation steps and all these extra things, and as an organization looks at time management, maybe you offload some of that time to the schools to be able to do those road evaluations for you. I'm not getting paid for that plug, by the way. Okay. There you go, man. All right, that's it. I tried to get through it in my time. If anybody has any questions, I'm not sure questions. Any other questions while I'm here?
Comments, questions?
Yes.
Very critical, what you do when you talk about the training aspect, testing. If anyone ever doubts, I think everyone remembers that accident happened in June in 401 at the east end of the city when the tanker explosion happened. And that was my guy that was going the other way that happened to be involved in that flight. So there's so much out there and there's so much that we have to do for the general public safety. It's really critical that we talk about training people and evaluating people to get the right people behind the wheel. So just one comment for me, just one thing I think we kind of lack a bit is some mentoring that kind of goes on.
Yeah.
Like once you do get a license, that's great. Most of the time you've been training in an empty trailer. And we know that there is a big difference between, depending on what you haul and what's on the trailer, how you have to brace it, or the dynamics of how it's going to shift or how it's going to move the trailer around. So I think one thing that really needs to get incorporated in is mentoring. So how can companies incorporate that mentoring?
All right, I can't speak to the actual implementation of mentoring programs because we're not involved in that, but I am able to say, like, companies are using our solutions to be able to evaluate drivers before they go into mentoring programs because of the cost. Like, from what I understand is getting somebody into a mentoring program, which could be 6 months, 6 months. It could be $25,000 of cost and investment into those drivers. So there's a heavy cost to it, but organizations that do it want to make sure they're investing in the right people, again, into the right people, but once they do that, they have a much stronger individual within the organization to help them kind of have a long-term success with the organization. So I'm an advocate for it, but we don't get involved in mentoring programs, so I can't speak to it other than people use our solution prior to getting people into mentoring programs to make sure they are the right fit. Yeah.
So, Chris, you could have mentoring within the company, right? I mean, somebody who's been there for a while, there could be mentoring as well, right?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. Exactly.
For sure, yeah. Anybody else? No? All right, thank you very much, Chris. Really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
It was great, buddy.
Appreciate it.
Good, very nice. Yeah, I liked a lot of the things you said, the idiosyncratic bias, doing the due diligence, and and if you can't measure it, you can't manage it. That's absolutely so true. It just takes one person to ruin the entire culture of a company, right? So it's so important that you do your homework and do your due diligence to get the right people working for your organization. Next is preventable road violations, electronic logging device ELD requirements, and how to effectively complete required vehicle inspections. Carl Berzin started his career with MTO back in 2008 at Transportation Enforcement Officer, as a Transportation Enforcement Officer at the now debunked English is really, I'm really good in English. All right, let's try this again. At the now debunked Trafalgar Scales in Halton Hills, Carl is also an outreach and engagement liaison for MTO's enforcement program. To speak more about preventable road violations, please welcome Carl Berzins.
Thank you. Okay, as introduced, name's Carl Berzins, been with the ministry for almost 16 years now. And yes, I did start at the Trafalgar Scales back when they still existed. Since then, I've been on the road as well, exploring Halton Hills, Milton, Georgetown, Acton, Mississauga, Burlington, all of Peel and Halton regions basically for a year or so. A while back, I was also out in Durham region, exploring that area as well on a acting assignment there. Been having a good time ever since. I like this job. I intend on sticking around for a while. And but today, this is our agenda. Okay, I'll be summarizing your beloved ELD requirements. Just a bit of a refresher on your daily inspections and your requirements for your annual inspections as well. Okay, so what's an ELD? We all know what an ELD is, okay? Device or technology which automatically records a driver's driving time and facilitates a recording of the driver's duty status. And that is certified by an accredited certification body under Section 79.1 of the federal regulations. So the device you're using, okay, has to be approved by Transport Canada. There are 101 different manufacturers of the ELDs now. Okay, picking one might not be the easiest thing. Many different kinds. Okay, but essentially they all do the same thing. Okay, and they're all mandated to do relatively the same thing. So it has to be synchronized with the engine of the commercial vehicle. Okay, it has to be allowed to have the ability for drivers to make corrections to their day in case something doesn't get caught right. Everything that was previously required in a logbook is now required in your logging device. All your data, such as plate numbers, locations of where you stop for every duty status change, et cetera. These systems are also designed to store the records of duty status, to be accessed by the company, and in case you get audited, all the files need to be pulled up. Also, they are required to generate an output file, which is surrendered to an officer for the ministry or any DOT officer down in the States or a police officer who's doing a commercial vehicle check. They have to be able to see the logbook just like they would back in the day when it was all on paper. Also, specify the minimal required data elements such that a standard output file can be produced by all compliant ELDs. So, yeah, that summarizes what I just told you. Many different styles of device. Okay, some are as simple as an app on your phone or a device, a tablet. Some are standalone devices with their own screen, their own CPU, wired to the dash, all facing the driver, accessible by the driver to be controlled, and so everything gets recorded properly. So the requirements, okay, must like I said, must be connected to the truck, one way or another. Must be in a fixed position facing the driver, so the driver knows what the ELD is doing and recording. Also must be designed so that the unit can be seen from outside of the vehicle. That just means, go back, sorry. So that just means that I need to be able to see the screen, to see what the driver's done, so that I'm not pulling the driver out of the cab and I'm not getting into the cab, into the driver's seat and getting up close to the screen. This is talking about simply being able to unhook it from the dash, give it to me through the window, even if it's, you know, through an open door, I can stand next to the truck and briefly take a look at what the driver's been doing. There is no requirement to have a 100-foot-long cord for me to bring it all the way back to my cruiser or anything like that. But I do need to be able to see it roadside. Now, if the device doesn't have a screen, okay, the device needs to be able to print. Okay, next. Okay, so if it's printed, okay, it's going to look very similar to what an old logbook looked like back before ELDs existed. Okay, the same graph grid, the same data, name of the driver, name of the company, name of like plate numbers, odometer readings, all that stuff that used to be in paper logs is now still in ELDs. Recorded a little differently. Some things are recorded by the driver, some things are recorded by the system itself. The ELD must be able to transfer the records of duty status via a PDF file, which gets encrypted through a Transport Canada encryption type system. And so when it gets emailed to me, it can't be intercepted in any other way. I decrypt it on my end, and then you view it like any other regular log. So it must be able to do that, okay? Now, in areas where there might not be cell coverage or Wi-Fi or any means of actually connecting the device to the internet, there are optional transfer methods with, say, a USB key or Bluetooth or something like that. So we can, if I really feel the need to see a log under those conditions, it's still possible. Okay, also has to be required to be allowed to make edits. Like I said, if something's not recorded properly and the driver notices that, the driver would be able to go back and make changes as long as the original entries are still viewable. Malfunctions as well, there is a certain code that comes up that's recognized by Transport Canada, which is one of the exemptions that allows you to switch from the electronic logs over back to paper. Okay, if that specific code isn't there, okay, don't be going back to paper. Call your dispatch, call your boss, and ask how to get on the back on the ELD if there's something wrong with it. Okay, so the benefits, like we're all going to have growing pains with this for a while. Not only are there so many different types of ELDs to learn, I mean, it's like I said, hard to choose which one is best for your company and so on. But there are benefits like the more efficient monitoring of the hours of service. Okay, there's a computer watching over you, instead of you trying to keep track of everything yourself. With if you've got a lot of stops, if you're an LTL driver or something, if you've got a lot of stops in your way and you're constantly pulling that book out and making notes, that can be a little time consuming as well. So this kind of simplifies that process. Alerts drivers when approaching hours of service limits. Okay, so all the rules for hours of service between the reg and the act is about 20 pages of fine print. What ELDs do is they take all those rules and sum them up nicely and tell you when you're breaking them and when you're in compliance. They create a level playing field for carriers. Now this speaks kind of to the carriers who were flouting hours of service rules before, making bigger trips than they can now by driving over hours, and obviously this has led to fatigue, collisions, fatalities, etc. One of the reasons why ELDs are now a mandate. Okay, some ELDs even come with special features that aren't required by law, but they just come as some bells and whistles, help track other diagnostic, other data, other vehicle diagnostics, things that track mileage, things required for IFTA, things like that. So, like I said, one of the ELDs, you have to pick one of the ELDs on the list of approved ELDs from the Transport Canada website. If you scan this QR code, it brings you directly to that list. 102 of them. Take your pick. They all come with their own price tag, their own level of support, level of functionality. In the end, they're all going to do essentially the same thing. But like I said, it's just a different product. It's just like many different types of trucks out there, many different types of cars. They all essentially do the same thing, but one's kind of better for the company than the other. So it's kind of your choice or your job to decide which one that is. So who needs them? Okay, essentially, if you used to need to carry a logbook, you now need to have an ELD. Now, some companies used logbooks as simple timesheets for their local drivers to keep track of their hours, which is one of the requirements for that exemption to fall in place. If you stay within your 160 kilometer circle, if you return back to the, at the end of the day, if you return back to where you started your day, okay, also your operator needs to keep track of your hours, which is where that method would come in, where the operator or your boss tells you, okay, this is our method of tracking your hours. You track them on this timesheet and then give us that sheet and tell us what you did. Okay, which is perfectly valid. So when it comes to a timesheet, they're still allowed to be on paper. Okay, but if you were required to carry a logbook before, then you're required to do an electronic version now. Go ahead. Okay, so exemptions. Like I said, if you're traveling within that 160 kilometer circle, you're still exempt. Okay, school buses are still exempt in Ontario. If you are operating under Section 191 of the Act, I'm sorry, I don't have any examples of this. I asked, nobody could give me one. This Section 191 basically is a section that allows the ministry or minister to allow a company to not use electronic logging devices for whatever reason that is. I couldn't tell you what that is, I'm sorry. But also rental vehicles, okay, if you've got a temporary truck for a while, for a couple weeks or whatever it is, you can use paper logs there. But you can't be renewing a rental or lease agreement repeatedly in a way of avoiding electronic logs. Okay, so they've come up with that. Also, older trucks, if your truck's made before year 2000, okay, the truck itself, not the engine, okay, you're required, you are then also exempt from the ELDs. If you're in the business of selling the vehicles, selling trucks and whatnot for test drives and things like that, if you're transporting the trucks from one dealership to another, whatever it may be, you are also then exempt from the ELDs. And if you are exempt from the regulation altogether, such as certain farm vehicles, ambulances, natural disaster relief, things like that, then you're exempt from ELDs altogether as well. Next. Okay, so the communication's been out for a while. Okay, they matched it as close to the federal hours of service regulations that came out in 21. Okay, we've made our own little tweaks and exemptions and adjustments, but essentially it's very similar. Entering information into the LD, such as plate numbers, things that won't pop up from the CPU or the ECM of the engine. Okay, things like your odometer reading will. Obviously, it doesn't know the trailer plate of what you're pulling. Okay, you're gonna have to put things like that in yourself. Okay, you're required to have an information pack of how the system works on board. The driver has obligations if it malfunctions. Okay, some jurisdictions might allow you simply to run without a log if it malfunctions. I don't know. In Ontario, you're mandated to pull out your paper logs and start keeping track of the rest of your hours that way. Okay, and you're also still mandated to review and certify your records of duty status, make any necessary changes, and yeah, answer whatever questions the system has for you whenever it has them. Go ahead. Okay, like I said, yeah, the communication's been going on for a while. They've been mandated since June of 21, but there's been, you know, a lot of education periods surrounding it. Like I said, there's gonna be a lot of headaches, a lot of growing pains. Eventually we'll get there, but at this point, as of January 1st, 2023, they were mandatory on all trucks, requiring ELDs. Okay, if you're traveling outside of Ontario, watch your exemptions. Okay, you might not have the same ELD exemptions as you would in Ontario if you say travel to Michigan or anywhere else in the States or even Manitoba. So there is no, if you're stopped without an electronic log device, if you're stopped with using paper logs instead of the ELD, okay, you're not technically out of service. However, if we pull up a history of you continuing to do this, okay, we can shut you down by regulatory guidance. Good old section 216.1 of the HTA lets us basically shut down any vehicle that we find breaking rules that we feel is going to continue breaking the rules. And so you could be shut down if you get caught running paper logs repeatedly. If you don't have anything, if you don't have an ELD or paper logs, okay, the same happens as what happened back in the day with paper logs. Okay, you're out of service for 3 days. Okay, set fines just under Part 1 of the Act. They range from $250 to $400, the tickets themselves. You get into something like false logs, they can get even higher, like $490 or so just for the ticket itself. If it's kind of a ongoing issue, okay, don't be surprised if you might get a summons to court instead of just a ticket. Okay, and of course there's CVR points involved as well. Okay, so during the roadside process, inspection process, I've noticed that a lot of drivers are stopped, and I ask them for their ELD, and they pull it out, and they're like, no one's ever shown me how to you know, show the graph grid or how to send that output file to the inspector or anything like that. So if you haven't yet, okay, familiarize yourself with the roadside inspection function. Every ELD I've come across has one. It might be called DOT inspection or something like that. Either way, it simplifies it, basically puts on screen what an old paper log used to look like. So it's nice and simple, uniform. Every truck I stop, it's going to look the same. So I'm not trying to figure out what everything says. The format's there. And also know how to send that file, know how to print it if you're able to. Okay. And yeah, carefully follow the instructions for data transfer. Okay, you don't want to be sending it to the wrong place or not being able to send it all. Okay, so like I said, we're going to be also briefly discussing vehicle inspections. So straight out of Section 6 of Reg 19907, daily inspection of a commercial motor vehicle or trailer must include an inspection of every system and component listed in column 1 of the appropriate daily inspection schedule. For most trucks, that would be Schedule 1, okay, which you also have to have on board. The daily inspection must be adequate to determine whether there is a major or minor defect as set out in the appropriate daily inspection schedule, okay, and that inspection is good for 24 hours, as you know. All that stuff has to be in there, okay, all that data, your name, where you conducted the inspection. Now, there isn't any set form of how things need to look. It's not like a logbook where everything has to look the same, one log to the next. You can have all that data spread about a piece of paper as you wish, okay? It just has to be there. If you scan this QR code, it will take you to the most recent version of the Schedule 1, which is straight from the ELAWS website. Always your best source for that, okay? A lot of the inspection books that you buy at truck stops, Canadian Tire, places like that, they also often have a valid version of the Schedule 1, which you need to have on board, which you need to show us in case we ask for it. You have to have that on board just to show that you had something to reference during your check that day. Okay, as we know, any minor defect, note it in your report. Tell your boss, have it fixed as soon as you can. Okay, any minor defect, you are allowed to drive with it as long as you've noted it. Okay, I stop people sometimes with little minor defects as defined as minor, and they simply haven't noted anything. Just check the no defects box now. Now they're in violation versus not being in violation, okay? Because you are allowed to drive with minor defects as long as it's in your report. Okay, if it's not in your report, then see, now you risk getting charged with improperly driving with a minor defect. Okay, major defects, can't drive with any of them. So if you find a major defect in column 3 of your Schedule 1, don't drive it. Fix it first, okay? A lot of those defects are also part of the out of service criteria, okay, which will ground your truck until the defects are fixed. Okay, again, there's no specific procedure in checking your truck, okay, as long as you check everything. Start at the front. I mean, get into a habit of developing a glide path for yourself so you know you're not missing anything. Okay. Common list of things to look at, right? When we're talking about body damage on the bottom of that list there, we're not talking about scratches or dents or anything. We're talking about body parts about to fall onto the roadway and cause an issue. Fairings, bumpers, whatever it may be. That's what it means by body damage there. Wheels, very important. Okay, check every wheel fastener along with the washer behind it every time. Okay. There's been a bit of an uptick in wheel separations on our roads. And so the ministry is also still doing Operation Wheel Check, where we've got a blitz every month, unannounced, where every officer does nothing but check just the wheels on every truck, and we do probably 2 or 3 times the amount of inspections that day solely on the wheels of trucks. And if we find anything wrong with the wheel, okay, anything wrong with the tire, anything wrong with the rim, the hub, anything at all, okay, regulatory shutdown occurs. So again, Section 216.1 of the Act lets us ground the truck if we feel that the offense will continue to take place, and so that does happen with wheels especially now. Okay, going around, this is around the back. A bad picture to use since there's like 14 clearance lights on top of that trailer, but you get the idea there, right? Check all your tail lights at night, your turn signal stop lights. Your rearmost lights are always your major defect if those don't work, okay? So make sure those are flashing as intended. Compartment doors, make sure your doors are closed. I've noticed a lot of roll-up doors these days have been staying open while driving. Okay, not so much with the barn doors because you can see those through the mirrors, but yeah, keep an eye on those roll-up doors. So here it's just talking about a bit of load security. Now you're getting under the truck, looking at your fuel tank, looking for leaks, looking for chafing air lines. Check your push rods on your air brakes. Make sure those aren't coming out too far. Make sure your indicators, your push stroke indicators are installed. Okay, by law, every truck needs those as well. Inside, make sure your lower pressure warning's working. Make sure your steering wheel stays in one spot. Make sure your driver's seat stays in a fixed position. Make sure your windshield defroster works. Okay, previously that was just a bus requirement. Now it's required on all CMVs, which it should. Okay, annual inspections. Now, these are the bright yellow decals you see on your truck that are staring you in the face every time you get in a cab. Check that every time, okay? That ticket can go to you, it can go to your boss. They're very easy to spot, obviously. They all have to be in the same place relatively, right by the driver's door on the left side of the windshield. If it's the trailer, has to be up close to the front of the trailer on the left side, always on the driver's side, so that no matter what vehicle, say you get into a rental truck or a loaner, or now you're pulling a trailer that you've never pulled before, okay, it's very easy to see if that annual inspection's been done or not. Okay, here is, we've all seen what these look like, okay? So if, say, this one was punched in March of '23, okay, the best way to look at it, to find out what the expiry date is, simply look at the next field over from where that circle has been punched. Okay, so if it was March, okay, March would be punched. That means the decal expires on the next month over, being April, okay, of the next year down, April 1st, 24th. Okay, so I'm sure we all know how to read them generally, but that's just some refresher. Here's some examples of fines. If we stop you, we find things wrong. Simply not having a report, okay, not the biggest deal, 110. You get into problems with like having low tire tread or major air leaks or something like that. Now we're talking, bigger money. And of course, if these offenses keep happening, if we see a history, you could get a summons to court instead of just a ticket, meaning there is no set fine. You go to court and the justice of the peace decides what you should be paying as a fine. Okay, next. That's the last one, and that's it. So I'm here for any questions as well, if you've got any. Yes, go ahead.
With the minor defect, and one of the things I find quite frequently is drivers not realizing it, but could you elaborate on if a minor defect is found, so a driver notes on his vehicle inspection, minor defect has been found, when does that have to be repaired?
There's no regulatory requirement of when. It's basically like as soon as it's reported. I've heard before the truck is redispatched, okay? So basically as soon as practical, right? I mean, you don't want to be driving around with anything wrong.
Back to the terminal, let's get it fixed, so.
Exactly.
That's something we want to continue to run with for the next 7 days.
Exactly, yeah.
Now, if that were the case, that's something you could deal with at your end to go, geez, you've been back to the terminal, like especially if it was a local driver, back to the terminal at the end of every day.
As long as it keeps getting written down, there's not much I can do about it roadside, to be honest. So, past 20 days, okay, every inspection report needs to be handed into the operator within 20 days, and if the operator's not seeing the defects, rolling in on the same report over and over, then yeah, that's an issue. But we don't have a lot of that problem. Our biggest problem is drivers simply not noting the defect at all, right?
Anybody else? Nope. Thanks, Carl. Thanks very much. Appreciate it. Very good. Very informative stuff. There's a celebrity in the house, and we're going to take a 10-minute break. Kerry Schmidt, he's with the OPP Media Relations, and you see him on so many media channels. I mean, I need his autograph later. But Sergeant Kerry Schmidt will be speaking about road safety and impaired driving. We are going to take a 10-minute break right now. If you need that second cup of Java, or there's some stuff out there for you to snack on. Again, thank you to our proud sponsors. Our title sponsor, Big Rig Group, thank you very much. Our title sponsor, diamond sponsor, High Point Truck Sales. Gold sponsors, we have a bunch. We have Cummins, Hexagon, Agility, Clean Energy, King Towing, Enbridge, NMT, and No, this is my age now. I got to read this. Thank you very much. Summit Risk Solutions. Your eyes are better than mine. Very good. Thank you. Thank you. Our silver sponsors, TTSAO and IMVR. Specialty sponsors, Left Lane Associates, Cold Iron Truck Center, and Truck Right. All right, 10 minutes, folks. See you soon.
Excellent. Do you have any spare power or, oh, yeah, I can steal off one of these.
Can I ask my assistant to? Yes, the assistant. Because they know the concept. Yeah, they should. Yes. Otherwise, I'll put a finger like this. Yeah, however you want.
Do you have HDMI that I can plug in too? Like an extra? No, like to plug in the system? Or how are you, like, I'll just.
So what we'll do is, like when I become,
Yeah.
I'll just.
It's great to be here. My name is Chris Wilkinson from America.
I'm up next.
Fantastic event. I think this is the first annual.
Or do you want to wait for something else?
Just set it up right now.
I just want to say everybody for next year, check this event out. It's really good.
Length on that?
It should be 12.
Yeah.
I was giving me anything, no?
No?
I don't know the reason why it went down. So this was
This is the first annual, right? It's the first one. Yep. Check. One. There you go. All right. Hi, my name is Chris Wilkinson. I was one of the presenters today at this event. I had a great time, meeting a lot of great people. It's the first annual event. I'm so excited to be a part of it. I look forward to doing this again next year. Thanks, man. Thank you very much.
I'm so sorry. I couldn't figure out, it's difficult to read the mind. I need to give just the cue. Turn it up. Give the finger cue. Straight. Keep it up.
All right, friends, if you want to make your way back, just grab your coffee, grab your sandwiches, bring that piece of cheese with you, and then let's get started. All right, folks, if you want to please make your way in the hall, we'll get started. The OPP is waiting for you, so come on in. Grab your seats. Sergeant Kerry Schmidt is with the Ontario Provincial Police Media Relations Highway Safety Division, the OPP. I have often seen him, I'm sure you have often seen him on TV as well, as he talks about some of the things you got to be careful, what's going on the roads and all that. Today he's going to talk about impaired driving as well as road safety. Would you please welcome Sergeant Kerry Schmidt.
Hey, actually, let me use this. Can I use this one? Yep. Yeah, that's cool. Thank you, everyone. Thanks for having me. This is fantastic. Looking forward to having a good discussion and chat. My topic is distracted driving and impaired driving. I will certainly talk about that a little bit, but there's so much to talk about as well. So we're going to go over all kinds of things, all kinds of stats and numbers, and I'm going to show you a couple of videos or a bunch of pictures and videos that hopefully don't send a trigger, and hopefully it's not your fleets involved in this at all, but I just want people to be aware that we do deal with tragedies, and again, I just want to thank everyone for being here, because I know that tells me that you are committed to safety, to being leaders in the organization, leaders in transportation, and there's a lot of responsibility that goes along with that. I'll talk about a little bit of my personal experiences as well, and hang on, let me just get my other stuff here as well that I can talk. It's been a busy couple of days. I wasn't even sure if I was going to make it here today. I don't want to send Naveen scrambling here because I was in Superior Court at a judge and jury trial with a dangerous driver causing death and dangerous driving failing to remain. So a guy crashed his vehicle, took out a person, a pedestrian. He ultimately passed away as a result of that collision. He fled from the scene, and it was the reconstructionist and the investigation that led everything together to make sure that we were that we had the evidence and the charge were laid. We found him eventually, but these are real consequences, for real situations that have, meaningful and lifelong impacts, not just on the family of the deceased, but everyone around them, including the drivers, the companies, the families, loved ones, and any witnesses who saw that. This is real stuff that's happening all the time. We talk about distraction, we talk about impaired driving, and the consequences that come with that. We're in the middle of our Festive Ride campaign, and we're out there looking for impaired drivers, people putting themselves, their passengers, the public at risk. As part of commercial vehicle operators, if you're an AZ or an A or a D license holder operating that class of a vehicle, there is no provision for alcohol at all or drugs in your system. We can do a mandatory alcohol screening for any time we stop a vehicle and do a random breath sample. Now, we are finding people with cannabis, with drugs. We have oral fluid saliva testers that if we believe the person is impaired, we will do a standard field sobriety test to check for impairment. If they fail that, they will be arrested and they will go for a drug recognition evaluation. If they pass the SFST, the standard field sobriety test, and we still believe that there's drugs in their system, there's something going on, we can demand a breath sample through the oral fluid, and that will provide us information whether or not there's presence of cocaine or cannabis in their saliva or in their system. And that is something that obviously is a non-starter when you're operating a motor vehicle. Now, I just want to tell you a little bit about my day today, because the day kind of got off a little bit sideways, because yesterday I was in court at 361 University testifying to this dangerous cause death, fail to remain cause death. The trial, it's a judge and jury. There's the jury of people are sitting beside me. The judge, all the lawyers are in front of us. They're asking questions. They paint out this a scene of disaster, glass, debris, car parts, and this poor victim lying on the ground, barely conscious. That's what we deal with over and over and again. Now, I want to bring it back to another situation, and I'm going to show you a couple of quick pictures. Again, it's no accident. We talk about collisions happening. We all probably recognize this crash from Humboldt. This is not the one I'm speaking of, but again, you see the carnage, destruction, and when your fleet, and we certainly don't want to see your fleet involved in a wreck like this. This woman here, standing next to our previous commissioner, is Miss Mitchell Derbyshire. Her sister was killed in another collision. This collision, now, how many of you have heard me speak in the past? Anyone? Yes, a few. So I apologize if some of this is going to be repeated, but she was killed, her sister was killed in a horrific crash in 2014, March 5th, on Highway 400. She was operating that minivan there. The lumber truck, the B train, coming down Highway 400, lost control, went through the steel guide rail. You can see it's zippered across the highway, colliding with multiple vehicles on the other side, killing Karen. Karen was in this vehicle. Her priority was safety. She's operating a First Canada, vehicle, and obviously just an absolute tragic situation. Now, these are just some of the pictures from the scene, and all I want you to do is just put yourself in the position that this is your truck, that this is your fleet, this is your driver who is now charged with all kinds of offenses. And instead of you sitting in this fancy ballroom with beautiful linens and all kinds of great food to enjoy, I want you now either to close your eyes or just put yourself in a position that you are now sitting in a courtroom where I was sitting this morning. I want you to imagine the judge in front of you, up on the platform. The witness box is empty at the time. The accused is standing before the judge along with their lawyer. The jury is standing off to the side, and they have just rendered a verdict. And I have in my hand here a copy of a verdict from this crash right now. And I want you to imagine you are the company, the fleet representative involved in this situation. And this is the judge reading her judgment. And it goes on for 10 pages. I'm only going to read a little bit of it, but I just want you to read, I want you to hear just a few tidbits here. And just put yourself in this position. On April 13, 2017, I found the defendant guilty of criminal negligence causing death and guilty of the lesser included offenses of dangerous driving causing death as a result of a multi-vehicle crash. ... I found the defendant failed to inspect the air brakes on his tractor trailer in the morning of the accident. That the defendant knowingly took his tractor trailer out on the highway that day without conducting that inspection. And that's exactly what Carl was speaking about about the importance of daily inspections, right? Continuing on, her words, that in operating the tractor trailer on the highway, he either failed to notice or simply ignored the fact that his tractor trailer was demonstrating insufficient brake force. And that in causing a rear-end collision with the panel truck ahead of him on the highway, forcing it over into the oncoming lanes of traffic, as you see in the picture, into a collision, resulting in the death of Miss Mitchell Derbyshire. It goes on and on and on. The aggravating factors, the pre-offense period shows the discrepancies between the log sheets and the GPS records, the E-logs that we were hearing about from the MTO. The defendant was forging those same logs. It demonstrates an overall pattern of failing to comply with legal requirements which are designed to ensure the commercial motor vehicle can be operated safely on public highways. Had the defendant bothered to check the air brakes in the days or weeks leading up to the accident, he would have discovered that they were in fact unsafe. Instead, he put the public at risk in neglecting his duty to inspect the air brakes and according to the governing regulations. There's more and more and more. The pre-sentence, now here's some good stuff. The pre-sentence report reveals that the defendant was for 25 years a consistently employed professional driver with an average driver's record. Oh, way to go. That's fantastic. You know, what does all that mean? The defendant was for some 25 years regularly employed truck driver. He appears to be a contributing member of society. The care and support he provided his mother is noteworthy and admirable. But, nevertheless, the blameworthiness of the defendant cannot be mollified or ignored. His deliberate endangerment of public safety is neither excusable nor justifiable. This is no momentary lapse in attention or an isolated incident of forgetfulness. Clearly, the defendant chose to neglect his statutory duties, knowing that in doing so, he was putting the lives of other motorists at risk. And as such, I sentence you to a term of incarceration for on and on and on. Now, you're that fleet owner. How are you feeling right now? This is just the end of the criminal period. Now it's going to go into the civil period. It's going to go from bad to worse. But again, I just want you to understand that's what we're dealing with on a day-to-day basis. I want to acknowledge Hank in the back of the room here. Hank Rittenbeek is the new OPP, Commercial Vehicle Dangerous Goods Provincial Coordinator for the program. If you have questions about policies, legislation, you can talk to the MTO. You can also talk to Hank. Hank, just give us a wave. The big guy in the back. So, my doppelganger. Anyways, I want to set that stage for you just so you understand what we're dealing with. We're not trying to, spoil your fun and nitpick on these little things. I'm not sure what you guys do for fun privately. Hey, listen, I'm a commercial pilot. I love flying airplanes. And if you've ever gone on an airplane, you might even see the captain of the airplane walking around the airplane, even in the middle of the wintertime. He's doing his pre-flight inspection. He's doing his pre-flight checks. And that happens every time they go flying. Every time I jump into a little airplane, I do my standard walk around. I'm checking every hinge, bracket, bolt, brake, fluid, everything. And I have a checklist I go through. And your drivers should be doing the exact same thing. But for some reason, we seem to be complacent in that. We seem to think that it was good yesterday, it's probably going to be good today, and all of a sudden yesterday wasn't yesterday, but it was last week, and then it was last month, and then there's a crash, and then we see here that had the driver failed or bothered to check his brakes in the weeks or months leading up to it, this could have all been avoided. It's something that we need to change the culture in having people inspect their vehicles. Anyways, hopefully I'm not doing too much of a buzzkill here, but I hope that resonates with you. This is just last week, and this is just a dash cam from a vehicle. It doesn't really show anything too spectacularly, but you're going to watch here in the middle. There's just a dump truck driving along here, no big deal. And actually, the dump truck driver, oh, boom, there it goes. He just lost his front left driving steering wheel. Big puff of cloud. Have you ever had a tractor trailer tire blow up beside you? It's happened to me once, and it was the biggest shotgun blast I ever heard, and that truck was gone. It pulled to the left, took out a few vehicles with it. The driver was only minorly injured. Thankfully, there was that concrete wall that separated the directions of traffic, and this, coincidentally, is very close to where that other crash I just showed you took place. Anyways, the car's on its side. That's what we posted. The next, or a couple hours later, the whole tarp came off. The driver was taken to hospital. Minor injuries, pretty straightforward. But again, I don't know how that tire blew. If it was low tire pressure, if there was a defect on it, if it would have been visible during a pre-trip inspection or a daily inspection, I don't know. The driver was not charged for that. But as a result of this wreck, our commercial vehicle inspectors came to the scene and did an inspection on the truck, and guess what they found? Defective brakes, defective parts in the vehicle, incomplete daily inspection reports, a host of different charges. I think it was 4 or 5 different offenses that were identified. Only because he wrecked did we do the inspection. We can't inspect every truck, but when we do inspect a truck and we find these kinds of defects, that's, again, a very compelling state of condition that we don't want to see happen. Now, sometimes it's the vehicle, sometimes it's an animal, sometimes it's the weather. And this was yesterday. I just tried to update a couple of things here. Yesterday, snow streamers coming across from Georgian Bay, Lake Huron, coming across through Brantford, Highway 403, whiteout conditions. We had 4 transport trucks in the ditch. We had 2 multi-vehicle crashes, one involving 7 vehicles, one involving 3 vehicles, one person taken to a trauma center with potentially serious life-threatening injuries. It ended up not being as serious. I was talking to a reporter this afternoon from Global News. She had just come up to Huntsville because there was another crash up there that they were dealing with that claimed the lives of 5 people in a head-on crash involving some young kids. And anyway, she was driving up through Huntsville, and Hank will attest to this. The snow streamers, the snow belt can be crazy. And she was saying she's driving up there. She couldn't see more than 5 feet in front of her, and all she was doing was getting blasted by tractor trailers that were blowing her down. So again, sharing the road, driving safely, responsibly is what we want to do. I don't want to bore you with too many numbers, but I got a bunch of charts here. And you can take a look at this, and then you can tell me if we're on track or not on track. This represents 5 years of data, 2018 to 2022. The CMV D1. D1 means the driver is the one responsible for the crash. They're the at-fault driver in a crash involving a commercial motor vehicle. And 21% of all the crashes, 21% improper lane change. Do you agree with that? Do you need more mirrors? Why is it happening? Why is an improper lane change the #1 cause of crashes that we're seeing in a 5-year period? Any thoughts? I'd love to have some feedback if anybody wants to shout out. Anybody? Anybody? What's that? Mirror adjustment. So they can't see. They should be seeing. What are they doing? Now, there you go. Is that a problem? How can we do that? Cars have all kinds of cameras. Maybe there's something that we can be done to adjust that. Are they just pushing? Are they bullying their way through the highways, putting the signals on and going over? Now, in this situation, interestingly enough, CMV drivers charged in 29% of the collisions where they're the D1. So that tells me that 71% of the times the drivers aren't even charged. They're at fault, but they're not even charged. 29% they were charged. So, improper lane change, following too close, driving properly. Now, driving properly, maybe that's a mechanical issue. Maybe that's some other hazard that the driver in and of itself was driving appropriately, but they weren't able to. That was the driver action that the officer puts in the traffic report. Speed too fast, lost control. Now, these are CMV crashes, CMV drivers specifically. Let's compare that to commercial motor vehicle crashes involving commercial motor vehicles in a collision. Now, this is all factors. This is not just commercial drivers. This is the other driver. So it may be another tractor trailer or another commercial vehicle, or it might be a little passenger vehicle, a little Toyota, a little Honda, a little Chevy, whatever it is. Again, improper lane changes. So why are drivers in their little passenger cars having the same problems as truck drivers in their big trucks? I'd love some feedback. Is it mirror adjustment again? Or blind spots? They're not checking? Like, there's all kinds of technology that keeps us, alert. The steering wheels when you come out of the lanes. Blind spot warnings when you put your signals on. My car does that to me and warns me if there's a car there in my blind spot. But again, inattentive drivers, following too closely, speed too fast for conditions, losing control, and on and on and on it goes. So again, improper lane changes. If you're going to tell your drivers anything, tell them to be careful when they're changing lanes. It's pretty simple. So, in the end, the top 5 driver actions by CMV drivers who are at fault, and they're the D1 in a vehicle, in a CMV for this year. Again, same thing, 1,200 crashes, 22% of them improper lane changes, following too close. Some of them were driving properly, so that means something else was going on. And that could be driving properly, but the brakes were out of adjustment and didn't work, or whatever that was. Losing control or speed too fast for conditions. And get ready for speed too fast for conditions, because look outside. Those conditions can change really quickly when that snow starts coming down. This is hard to see, and I'm sorry for putting it in the first place because I got to come up closer as well. We investigate, so far 2022, 74,000 crashes that we investigated. 12% of the crashes that we get called to involve commercial motor vehicles. So, 12% involve commercial motor vehicles, but I'll tell you, typically, the number of people that are dying is highly overrepresented when commercial vehicles are involved. Commercial motor vehicles may only account for 12% of the crashes, but fatalities involving commercial motor vehicles is very often much higher than 12%. So obviously, a much higher propensity for tragedy. 71 people died in crashes last year that involved commercial motor vehicles. 1,000 people got hurt. 8,000 people were involved and didn't get hurt, property damage only, and that's what represents the numbers, and you can see how it corresponds. So we can go back to it if you want. I'm going to run out of time if I keep going on every stat and statistic, but I just want you to know that there's a lot of things out there that we need to change. There's a lot of great drivers out there as well. I'm not here to tell you that truck drivers are causing trouble. And in this situation, when we're dealing with all kinds of traffic, someone just sent this to me, and a witness, the driver called it in. They didn't even stop. They weren't aware. But good on this driver. They're driving along. You're going to see off in the distance here. It's not a great video, and there's no sound. But you'll see a car lose control, hit the wall, boom. It just missed it. Do you know what? They didn't even hit. Somehow, or maybe they hit some debris. Pretty fortunate for that driver to not react. Obviously, they didn't even realize there's nothing they could do. They couldn't go left, they couldn't go right, and this car just happened to drift by them. But when you're going down the highway, 80,000 pounds, with that kind of momentum and energy, you can't just stuff on the brakes. You can't swerve quickly because you're probably going to go over. And if you know this area, 488, kind of near or maybe it's by IBR, lots of construction going on there as well. A little graphical chart, same thing that we kind of talked about before. This is showing the last 5 years. The yellow line is our fatal injuries, our fatal crashes involving commercial motor vehicles. 50, 80, 50, 60, 70, people die every year involving crashes. Non-injuries are much higher, obviously, and then the injuries on the light blue. But again, 71 lives lost, and those are absolute tragedies that we're seeing over and over again. We look at the numbers here, the same thing. Now, this is showing by type, so you can see the percentage change. We're actually seeing an increase over the previous year. If you look up on the top here in this previous year, that we're seeing an increase in all categories outside of our fatal crashes of non-fatal property damage and overall crashes. We're seeing increases. So far, 38,000 crashes already. Of commercial motor vehicle involved collisions. So that's a lot of crashes that we're dealing with. Again, so there's our 33,000 5-year total property damage, 337 total collisions in the last 5 years involved in all collisions. I'll have to double check that. I don't know what that means. Sorry. Let me go back and I'll look into that. But where are they happening? Shoot, I work here in the GTA, and this is not encouraging if you're a GTA guy or girl. Top 10 detachments with the highest number of CMV-involved collisions. Toronto, Mississauga, Burlington, Aurora, Caledon, whatever, and everybody else. So Toronto, Mississauga, Burlington, that's pretty much, right here, and that's probably where a lot of you guys are operating. Again, when you do your safety meetings, when you talk to your folks, make sure they understand here in the urban areas of the GTA, multi-lanes, 401s, and all these other highways, be careful, watch out, because we know things can go sideways really quickly. And if you're operating equipment that's garbage or junk, it's going to just cause you more heartache. Now, this was actually being towed, but you can see the frame just totally collapsed. Now, it was driving at some point prior to this, but it hits one bump, it's going over by a tow truck, and the whole frame collapses. This was crazy, and as a result, caused a huge wreck and huge mess on the highways that we don't want to see happening. There's the frame. It's supposed to be straight. It's not, and that's the outcome of what it looks like when you're dealing with this. You got is navigating around. You got to tell me when I'm running out of time here, because I'd like to open up the questions as well, and just let me when I gotta leave. A couple minutes. Oh shoot, I'm running out of time. I'm gonna show you a video here. This is, you probably saw it in the news. You maybe didn't see this version, but again, this is how quickly you can go from a good day to a bad day. When you see it, you'll probably recognize it. This is Highway 401. This is eastbound direction coming through Toronto, late at night. Traffic's moving along, really no issue. Look at that, there's a transport truck in the far right lane. It's going to swerve over to the left here right now. You're going to see it start coming over. We don't know what happened, but we know what happened after it happened.
That was my guy coming the other way.
Really, I'm sorry, and that's why I don't want to trigger people on what we're seeing here. I won't show it again, and my condolences. There was absolutely nothing he could have done, and we've seen so much, but that's how quickly your day goes from a good day to a bad day. I don't know what happened. Investigators still working on that. Was it a mechanical? Was it a driver issue? I don't know, and I don't know what you've been told, but anyways, yeah. I don't know if we'll ever know. When the vehicle is consumed by fire, it is absolutely devastating. And, there's all kinds of issues out there, but that's just how quickly a day goes from a good day to a bad day, and that's exactly, it happens to be you at this table right now, but it could be anyone here. We don't want to lose our drivers. We don't want to lose our crew, our family, and we don't want to be responsible for losing a loss of life. Structural failure, improper loading, the belly of this trailer just flattened right out. I'm running out of time here, I think. But here we're talking about inspections. Our friends at MTO, we're doing a CMV blitz. Flat tires on those duals. Defective brakes on that flatbed behind it. No markings, no warnings on the over width of the truck. We won't listen to the whole video. Wheel offs. We see these situations happening over and over again. Another wheel separations. 130, 140 wheel separations that we get called to in the GTA every year. That's just what we get called to, never mind what the Ministry of Transportation gets called to and what happens across the province and how many people are able to get off and limp their vehicle off. And you see vehicle tires in the roads, or tires down in ditches. They're not there because someone had a flat tire and didn't bother to take their spare. They lost their wheel and they got away with it. And fortunately, it's not into the windshield or a occupant compartment of another passenger vehicle. There's all kinds of different defects. These are things that you would obviously see if you were to actually bother to do your daily inspection. Please pay attention. We won't watch the video of this as well, but it just shows some of the content. We're going to be seeing lots of different types of situations here over the next couple of months. And when you're looking at road conditions, driving to those conditions, here, actually, there's no audio. Is there audio on here, or can you? Okay, it doesn't matter. We read the caption. Spun out trucks everywhere, but here you go. You got a dash cam. It's wet and foggy and misty, and all of a sudden, out of your eyes, boom. Bad day. No serious injuries in that, but again, it's a headache. Too fast for conditions. One of those leading causes of injuries that we see. And we see people doing really dumb things all the time. Am I getting the hook? So you may have seen that one, and we get box up investigations all the time. And, there's people that want to sell all kinds of products to prevent that, but really, it's the driver. You should know if your box is up, your box is down. And this, again, we won't watch the video, the clip here right now, but it goes on and on, talking about the situation. The truck is just up ahead here on the right, coming out of a construction zone, and driver had no idea. Again, things happen quickly, and just watch the off-ramp. The rollovers are what we see to happen. Watch that white truck. He's just coming around. He looks like he's driving normally, but surprise, surprise. And the guy in the middle lane, I wish the audio was working here because it's kind of funny, because we'll see it again here from his perspective. This is his perspective now. He's driving along. You're going to see that white truck just coming along. It's funny. The video I have, it's full of bleeps because he's driving along. He goes, oh, there's the truck. It rolled over. Bleep, 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 bleep. Oh. Bleep. So he tapped his truck. He wasn't happy. But again, that's how quickly it is. Load shift, too fast for conditions, high center of gravity, highway advisory speed limits are there. The guy in the intermodal container, good on him, right? I got to make my delivery. I'm not stopping for anything. But it happens all the time. And it's not always the truck driver's fault. There's lots of four-wheelers out there. You may have seen this video. Comes around, changes lane, brake check, whoops, hits the brake, roads are wet, heat goes around, and by the time you're about 10 degrees off kilter, you're going for the ride of your life. And the little blue car probably was like, oh, what that was? I have no idea. You may have seen this, or I've shown this one in the past as well. Watch this tractor trailer. This tractor trailer actually moved over into the middle lane to let traffic that was merging come over. He didn't watch in his mirrors that this car had come up and underpassed him. And so he's looking up ahead, the car that merged, not realizing that, oh, someone came up and snuck up behind me. He makes an unsafe lane change, taps it over, and goes over for a ride. That's a little while ago as well. But again, no serious injuries in that, but things happen quickly. And if you're the poor driver, drivers will have PTSD as well. I got to wrap it up, right? Oh, yeah, okay, I'm done. There's a car here. He wants to exit, but instead of exiting, he goes to the left because who wants to be stuck behind 3 tractor trailers? Nobody wants to be stuck behind 3 tractor trailers. I'm going to get around and pass them. Well, they're in the left lane, they want to pass, and then they realize they can't pass. So now they got to come back to where they started, and now they got to slow down and quickly get over because that's the exit right there. Whoops. And this one didn't work as nicely as the other one. Lady got some broken legs. Again, just watch out. Multiple crashes happening all the time. Ice conditions, you don't know how quickly. You drive from Illinois to Quebec, and you go from dry roads to wet roads to icy roads. And as this dash cam is going forward because of this tractor trailer, the rear dash cam on the same truck. So that happened in front of him at the same moment that happened behind him. Anyways, any questions? I could keep going and going, but I'm going to stop right there. How am I going to do it for time? Yeah. Yeah, do you know what, the years of experience and even driver training and all that experience, that's one thing that we have been looking into. We don't have it very easily. Maybe the MTO, Hank or Carl, can you speak to that in terms of driver age? And that's something we're very curious in, and when there's fatal investigations, we will always find out, how long they've been a driver, what's their abstract, when did they get their license, but we don't have a lot of history. If you have an AZ, you have an AZ, and you are qualified. But any other comments from... No? Yeah. Sorry. Yeah. Yeah, no. Yeah, and I've heard people say, well, the left lane is for passing, the middle lane is for driving, the right lane is for merging and coming on and off. Well, I still want people to move over to the right. Driving is a very active activity, so I don't know what to tell you. Yeah, how do you share the road? How do you be visible? Turn your lights on, full lights, so you actually have taillights. Following distance. I know if your truck's back off and give yourself the 60 meters that you're required to give. How often do you see 60 meters in rush hour traffic on a 80 kilometer or higher speed limit? You don't see that. So I think I'm getting the hook. No. Okay. But every time you back off and you give space, so you give yourself time and distance to react to changing conditions, someone just cuts you off, and then you just end up going back and back and back. I don't know what to tell you. I try to do what I can. If you have any suggestions that I can do for some safety messaging, I'm all ears. I'd love to chat, love to connect, and see what we can come up with.
Just traveling to Europe and some companies, they keep all transport trucks in right-hand lanes. Like they don't allow them to use, 4 lanes going one way.
Yeah. Well, we big trucks are not allowed in the far left lane when they're over 6.5 meters on a 3-lane or more highway in many cases. That's a great question for a guest that's coming in around 6 o'clock. So when the minister shows up, that would be something to maybe ask him. But yeah, I've heard those things. We need trucks. We need transportation.
Yes. Thank you very much, Kerry. Thank you very much. Sergeant Kerry Schmidt, ladies and gentlemen, OPP. No, that's terrific. Very informative and very engaging, and also very sad to see some of those videos. Folks, next up, we're going to talk about maximizing efficiency, a guide to corporate tax planning, and I would like to invite our speaker. He is Lakshmi Hassan Rasappa, also known as Lucky, the CEO and President, Estate and Tax Planner. He's also a financial planner. Lakshmi Hassan, for more than 20 years, has helped thousands understand the fundamentals to financial freedom. Lakshmi Hassan is a universal financial literacy coach and keynote speaker. Please welcome Lakshmi Hassan Rasappa.
Good afternoon, everyone. Can you hear me, everybody? Yes? Yes. So today's presentation only for education purpose. It's not tax advice or tax planning advice. It's only education purpose. If you want to talk to me about some of the personal information, yes, then I could give you some advice, okay? So I'm going to start. I just want to make sure that you guys understand before my speakers, they talk about different topics. Today, I'm going to talk about how you're going to save more money in your pocket, okay? Tax is the biggest killer, okay? So if you see that average Canadian has to work 30% of their life in order to pay income tax. Did you guys imagine that in your life? 30% of your life. When you earn, you have to pay tax. When you spend, you have to pay tax. Even if you save, you have to pay tax. Even if you die, you have to pay tax. Tax, tax, tax. Isn't it? Yeah. So there's 3 Ds of tax planning. I am not an accountant. I'm not a tax filer. So please make sure you understand me. I'm a tax planner. Current situation and future situation, I predict how to save your taxes. I'm not filing taxes. I know you may think, oh, I already have an accountant. They only do tax filing. Whatever you have, you are giving. They said, they see what your income is, what your expense is. They said how much you're going to keep it, how much you're going to give it to CRA. That's their duty. My thing is totally different. Tax planning. Okay? There's so many tax planning. Today, my topic is corporate tax planning. Okay? So if you see it, majority of taxpayers, tax preparer or accountants, they only do tax filing. And only you pay for tax filing, not for tax planning. That's most important things you need to get from this slide. So I want you to be smart today. Okay? After today, I have to at least give you some valuable information. So I want you to be smart. Save money and reduce taxes. That's my message to you. Make sense? Yes? Everybody sleeping? Come on. It's only 3 o'clock today. So there's 3 ways of planning your tax to minimize it. But first 2 ways is called tax evasion and tax avoidance. Is not legal. It's not legal. Tax planning is the legal way to minimize your taxes. Very important to understand this. Everyone say, oh, accountant, can you reduce my taxes? You guys already finished 12 months of your corporate taxes, and you didn't even plan it, and you are asking them, okay, I want to pay less taxes. No, you need to do throughout the 12 months. That's very important. Sure. Can you hear me? Good. I'm excited, sorry. So, I don't need to talk about my firm that much, more than 10 years. We do only tax planning, not tax filing. This is a big agenda to cover in 30 minutes. So I just want to talk to you about small business deduction. First $500,000, you only pay in Ontario 12.2% corporate tax. And corporate tax cannot be publicly traded. Okay, corporation cannot be publicly traded and have to be resident in Canada. And if you are hit 11 million, between 11 million to 15 million, your small business deduction will be dropped. After 15 million, it's gone. Okay? After expense, I'm talking about, okay? So, his general tax rate is 26.5%, and a small business deduction is 12.2%. Okay, very important to understand. And I always said, if you have operating company, don't bring any investment towards to that. Because if you make any passive income, CRA will punish you by, they call it passive income, 50.2%. If you have rental income or any interest income coming on, they'll punish you. But still, you could get it back around 30% back. We'll talk to you in the second slide. So, if you have, 50,000 passive income is fine. But between 50,000 to 150,000, every dollar you make from passive income, they will deduct $5 from your small business deduction, big time. After 150,000, you won't get any small business deduction from passive income. Very important to understand this. So this is a chart I explained to you briefly. So after 150, you don't get anything, small business. A lot of people ask me, Lucky, can I get dividends or can I get salary? In 2024, in coming next year, the CPP, they're actually raising the bar. For 68,500, you're paying 5.95% on an employee portion, and an employer portion is another 5.95. After 68,500, between 73,400, you're going to pay another additional 4%. Used to be not exist. Now, starting from 2024, it's coming up. So if you ask me what is the best thing to understand, the pro, cons, good and bad. Salary, you generate RRSP room. You also contribute your CPP for your pension. Okay? The downside, you're going to pay, if you are fleet owners, you're going to pay double CPP payment. Right? Dividends, in a good hands, there you don't need to pay CPP. You also get a tax credit. Okay? But only thing, you cannot qualify for RRSP room, And also, if you want to get a personal loan or any mortgage loan, you don't have an earned income. Salary will be the earned income, dividend is not an earned income. That's very important to understand this. I'm a little bit going quicker because I have to finish in 30 minutes. This is the flexible plan that business owners are supposed to know. It's called health care spending account. Everybody have group insurance, group health and dental, all. But this is the most important one. Because why? The group, the rate may change over time if you have more claim. This one, you fix it, unlimited amount. A business owner have this for the entire family, even one person able to use that money in a year. That's the best plan you could have this. Much flexible, and it's tax deduction for the corporate level. Okay? Even you could use $50,000 as a business medical expense that year. It's a much flexible plan that you could use that health care spending account. Okay? So, in a nutshell, if you have an individual plan, a medical thing, after tax dollar, you have to get gross income of $12,000 in order to pay $8,000 for the premium. But if you have health spending account, $8,000, there's an administration fee, you only pay $9,000. So you save, I'm showing you dollar sign today to save money. Are you excited? Yes? No? Yes. Come on. So $3,523 you're going to save in a year. Imagine if you do it for 10 years. $30,000 in your pocket, isn't it? Are you happy? You saved $30,000 today from me. Small advice. Not yet. Not yet? Okay. Income splitting. In 2017, the CRA brought TOSI rule because young kids, family taking dividends from the corporation. But still, you have a loop on income splitting. If honestly your wife or your kids working in your company, you are still able to get salary. Okay? So even imagine if you have under 18 years old, still they are helping in marketing or any office work, you still can put as a contract base up to $15,000. Imagine, then there's no tax for the $15,000. It's a personal amount will be wiped out. So if you have 3 kids, $45,000 tax-free coming towards your family, isn't it? And if you have for 10 years, how much are you going to save? Legally, you could do that. As long as you cut the checks and long as they are working in your company, you save taxes. It's another saving I'm telling you. See? If a wife working, instead of a person taking $250,000, he paying $76,000 taxes. But if he combine that with his wife, he's only paying $67,000. So in a year, $8,000 tax saving. Imagine 5 years, how much? In 10 years, how much? Did I save you taxes now? No? Let's talk about pension plan. You guys are all kind of self-employed. You don't have a guaranteed income for your retirement, right? Teachers, you heard about teachers? They have the richest pension plan. TTC drivers, they have the richest pension plan. You are able to get guaranteed income at age 65 if you want to. If you set up an individual pension plan, if your income is over 100,000 and your age is over 40 years. And it's called defined benefit plan. Okay? And also the contribution is fully tax deduction from a corporate level. And you're building your wealth in an individual base using the corporation. No brainer. So if you compare to RRSP, this is much richer. Much richer. And you get guaranteed retirement pension. Who's going to give you? Don't even bother. You're going to get as teachers. Isn't it? Amazing. Are you excited? Is it worth the while today? Listening to me? Good. Thank you. capital dividends account. How to create capital dividend account? If you create it, the shareholder able to get tax-free. So there's a couple of ways you could create tax-free. If you have a property you sold on a corporate level, if you have owned a property in a corporate level you sold, and 50% of capital gain is exempt. So that's become a notional tax account. Okay? Even you have a life insurance owned by the corporation, or the beneficiary also the corporation, and the payer will be the corporation, you also build a capital dividends account, tax-free money. Plus, if a corporation, another corporation, inter-corporation paying another dividends, it's also capital dividends account. Okay? So there's 3 ways you will get the survivor, even if you passed away, the survivor able to get as tax-free. No brainer. I'm going to give you $1 million today. Can I? If you plan ahead today, when you retire or at the time of selling your shares to somebody or your family member, I'm able to give you, this year alone, 2023, $79,190. It says every shareholder able to capitalize lifetime capital gain exemption. And if you have a farm, $1 million. Imagine this. And if you sell on a corporate share sales, you make this lifetime capital gain. And you have to qualify for this test. It have to be qualified small business corporation. This test have to be passed. Too many information I'm throwing at you in half an hour. If you guys need more information, talk to me, we could talk about it, okay? So imagine, if instead of having 1 shareholder, if you have 2 shareholders, you save tax big time. In 2024, this coming year, they're also introducing they already introduced, but they are actually changing some tax rate. It's called alternative minimum tax. That's, you still have to pay your marginal tax rate on a personal level, plus parallel to that, you are still going to pay alternative minimum tax. So over $235,000 income, you're going to pay higher taxes. It means even if you sell a property, even a residential property, investment property, and that year your income goes up, you're going to pay double dip. Welcome to Canada. Succession planning. You never know. You are healthy today. He shows so many accidents. My God. I couldn't imagine. Oh my God. I said, oh my God. My heart beeps going like this. Anyways, as soon as I see that, I said, I have to tell you this. In case you became incapacitated or died, what will happen? I know I'm just taking one part of it. It's will. If you have one will in your life, I always tell, I do estate planning for clients, and at least one will, they don't even have it. Even if you have one will, you have also corporation, what will happen, everything come as a general will, you have to pay around $74,500 as a probate fee to the court to look at your assets and give access to the executor. But if you have multiple will, one for general of your personal stuff, one for your corporation, for the corporation you don't need to pay any probate fees. How many people have multiple will except me? Glad, smart. 2 people in a room? That's all? My God. Go and do it today. Not even tomorrow, today. Very important to know. Did I add value to you guys today? Excited? Yep. Thank you. Corporate life insurance. I said if you have a corporate life insurance, you could create CDA account, capital dividends account. So there's 4 ways of building a corporate life insurance. One, the lender, if you have a loan against a lender, they ask you to have a life insurance in case if you die, they have to pay the loan. That time, you could deduct the premium. Okay? And key person insurance. Even if you are a shareholder, you are the key person. If you died, what will happen to your business, isn't it? Yes or no? So key person insurance is also and you are giving your family tax-free money, except there's a proceed minus ACB. We'll talk about that. And buy-sell, if you have 2 or more partners. I see in many cases, 2 or more partners, they don't even have proper buy-sell agreement, a shareholder agreement, even a minutes books they should have in place. And succession planning, because you're going to pay taxes while you are selling or deemed to sell. Deemed means you died. Sometimes your share have to be deemed to sell in an accounting term. Then you need to pay capital gain or probate fees. You need to have the money. So in a corporate level, you could have a life insurance. How many people have corporate life insurance under your name? Only few. Everybody have life insurance in personal level? I'll give you a tip. If you do personally, if you are in a marginal tax rate 37%, if a premium is $5,000 annual premium, you need a gross income of $7,936. If you do the same thing in corporation, you need only $5,681. How much I save in a year? Imagine if you're paying for 20 years. How much are you going to save? 40 something. Isn't it? Did you notice I gave you a very valuable in this thing? Even 20 years you pay $40,000 in your pocket. Isn't it? So if you are a shareholder, go and do a life insurance under corporation. Based on your needs. So this is all education purpose. I'm not advising you. Again. Don't sue me, okay? A lot of people ask me, Lucky, there's so much capital gain. I have to pay so much taxes. My God, it's crazy. I want to sell my business. I want to save taxes. How can I? This is a very advanced tax planning. Some other accountant, they don't even teach you. And they don't even know. Okay? I'm not putting the accountants down. They are very good at filing the taxes. Estate fees. Heard about that Section 85 of income tax? You could do estate fees. You give your common share, you get your preferred share back. You're freezing your growth in the future. We could do it in order to minimize your capital gain. Capital gain reserve. It means instead of you're selling the shares on a same year, you could do it in 5 years and get 20%. So your tax rate will be low instead of getting the whole amount. Isn't it? Capital gain deferred for investment in small business. If you sell the business, then you have money and you have to pay capital gain. Instead of that, if your wife is running another business or you are interested in another business, you could put that money to minimize your capital gain also. Okay, but it have to be a certain period. You need to invest that back. I don't know how many people know about flow-through share. Some accountant, one of the IT guy came, he's recently graduated from university, he doesn't have RSP room. He said he's making $400,000. I said, IT guy, young guy, 24 years. He asked me, can you do a tax planning? I don't have RSP room. I said, okay, you don't need to have RSP room to put it in flow-through share. It's a mining company you are investing in, same deduction as RSP. You get 100% deduction. Can you imagine this? Does anybody teach you that? You guys are fortunate today. I'm giving all by my tips. Lifetime capital gain exemption, almost $1 million. If you have two shareholders, 3 shareholders, if you're immediate family, you save a lot of money. RSPs. If you have a room, yes, you could. Business deductions. How many people have bylaw for your corporation? Only one person? Bylaw?
Bylaw is your regulation. You should, everybody should have a bylaw for your corporation. Go and bind it with your lawyer, please. If you do it, whatever I show you, you could utilize it. Bylaw is your how you operating your company. How many people have minutes book? Only few. Minutes books, how you getting dividends, how you deciding how to operate your business. Minutes books is must in your business. How many people have a company structure? Go and do it. Don't tell me, oh, accountant didn't tell me. You're not paying for him to do that. You didn't even ask for it. They don't need to do it. You're only giving money to filing the taxes. That's it, period. So make sure these expenses, even I go to Caribbean on December with a minutes book, me and wife enjoy it, and I decide certain, the operation that I want to do it next year, I write off legally. Can you do that? Yes. I'm giving all my tips. Free of charge. Actually, this session I charge people, I'm honestly telling you. Okay, tax planners assist rather than wasting your time attending, you're saving money. So I will tell you this. Most accountants, they're filing your taxes. Our firm, only handful of firms doing tax planning. BDC, KPMG, if you go them, they'll nail you out, they'll rip you off a lot of money. I'm telling you, it's a big firm, name brand. Okay? In Canada, you could say 8 companies doing high net worth tax planning for the corporate level. Okay? We are one of those. Kabir's Accounting is